John Cena has announced his pending retirement in 2025, and I have some thoughts. Just as I had been wondering what's going on with wrestling, and as I took one of my occasional sabbaticals from watching the product, you can imagine my surprise when I get blindsided with this news. John Cena has had an illustrious career, to say the least. And it's funny, I hear him announce his retirement, and the first thing I thought of was his promo when he was feuding with AJ Styles, when he said, "I love it when people in Hollywood ask when I'm going to retire from wrestling, and I say never." Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but that was the gist of his promo. Now, to be honest, I have no idea why I brought it up, but I just thought I'd mention it since it was the first thing that came to mind. In fairness, I will say this. Cena may be retiring from wrestling, but I don't think he'll retire from WWE fully. We will see him back occasionally, and even though he says he'll no longer be in jorts, we will definitely see the jorts again. I have no doubt that he may do an attitude adjustment once in a while. But I do think he's gonna be completely done from official matches after 2025. So I wrote down a lineup of matches that I think would be fun to see and talk about, and then I can go ahead and do a little bit of a career retrospective on him. So I wrote 9 matchups. I think that's a fine number, and I think that there's a lot of people to talk about, but I think of the names, I think these are the best contenders. So let's get into number 1 here, going down the list. Now, and this is going to be The Rock. That's the first pick on my name. Now, far be it from me to advocate for 2 part-timers to have a match together and take up the spotlight, and more so at a pay-per-view. However, John Cena versus The Rock 3 times in a lifetime would make so much money, because they're both much bigger stars than they were 10 years ago, and they were both 1 win apiece. So you could literally have an angle where it's a tiebreaker. There's a story right there. Now, if you angle their story correctly, it will gain a lot of interest. And it will no doubt fill any arena, and it does deserve to go another round. So I know some people are going to hear this name, probably roll their eyes, or, maybe disagree with me. And that's fine if you do. But this, at the end of the day, is a business. And we're in the wrestling business. You are throwing away money if you don't capitalize on the availability of both men, and Triple H would be a fool not to do this match. If not at WrestleMania, then at least somewhere down the line next year. Because this is the last chance to do John Cena versus The Rock and make as much money as you possibly can out of both of these men. So, I think that if you're going to do a John Cena retirement tour, this is the match to do at some point down the line. Maybe not WrestleMania, maybe SummerSlam, but it has to happen a 3rd time. Number 2, Sami Zayn. Their only singles match was in 2015. It was cut short due to Sami Zayn getting injured, and they never did have a proper rivalry. Now, granted, the match was still really good, but again, it was a very short match. Now, Sami Zayn versus John Cena, babyface versus babyface, would do Sami a big favor. Now, some might argue that Sami doesn't need it, but he's also not doing much right now. He just lost the Intercontinental title to Braun Breaker, and he's kind of lost right now. So, now where does this leave Sami? Again, he needs a guy like Cena to get back into the main event scene. He's been back in the mid-card feuding ever since he feuded with Gunther. And this could really freshen him up a bit and transition him back into the main event picture. Maybe we could see him challenge for the world title or the WWE title, depending on where he lands on in the next draft. Number 3, CM Punk. This is a match that is all but a foregone conclusion to take place in 2025. But the question is when. Well, if the choice were up to me, and as I mentioned, I would book The Rock versus Cena at WrestleMania. But assuming that doesn't happen, they could have a WrestleMania match together, Cena and Punk. They never did have a singles match. So I think that this would be a match to go. And, if not WrestleMania, then, the other two events that make complete sense are SummerSlam or Money in the Bank. It's where two of their most significant singles matches took place, and having their last match at either one of those arenas would be very fine choices. But if it were up to me, again, I would have them go at WrestleMania. Number 4, Cody Rhodes. They would sell tickets. There's no doubt about that. Just like Punk, the question is where. And I say it should be up to SummerSlam. Maybe even Survivor Series, one of those two pay-per-views. Maybe Survivor Series, because that's closer to the end of the year. And that would be the best time to do the John Cena angle for going for title number 17, in my opinion. That'd be a good opportunity right there. Number 6, Shinsuke Nakamura. Like Sami Zayn, Shinsuke can benefit from feuding with Cena. It's funny, I thought for sure that when Triple H took over, Nakamura would be revitalized and have a main event push. But unfortunately, things just haven't panned out that way for Shinsuke. A win for John Cena can bring back the mystique of Nakamura. A lot of people feel like he's too far gone to get over in his career. And for what it's worth, here's my take on that notion. It's not too late for anybody. And guys like Kofi Kingston has proven that. I mean, look, and there's no disrespect on Kofi Kingston when I say this. There's really no disrespect. But before he won the WWE title, he wasn't doing much right then and there. He wasn't seen as world heavyweight title material. He just wasn't. I didn't see him as a main event guy. And I know a lot of people didn't either. Now, I'm sure there were people that did advocate for him. I'm sure he had his following before then. Even the New Day. But to sit there and say that, for anybody to predict that Kofi Kingston would be a WWE champion in 2018 and have that, that momentum that he had, Kofi Mania and all that, I call them a liar because there's no way. There's no way. But again, if it's not too late for a guy like Kofi Kingston, if he could do a career turnaround, however short-lived that was, because he did have about a 6-month title reign, if he can do it, so can Nakamura. Nakamura can also be revitalized. It's just all about the right booking. Number 7, Chad Gable. I think this could make for a great full circle moment for John Cena. He debuts having a match against Kurt Angle, and now he can put over someone who's something of a young Kurt Angle and Chad Gable. A lot of people compare the two of them, and a lot of people see similarities amongst the two of them. I do think that there's, something to be said about that in terms of Chad Gable's wrestling ability. And I think, if you have John Cena do an open challenge match on a Monday Night Raw, you have Chad Gable come out there, they wrestle 10, 15 minutes, John Cena wins, because let's be honest, he does need a win. And I know it's weird saying that, given it's John Cena, but he could use a win, given that he's been on something of a losing streak, singles match-wise, for a long time. So I think this could benefit both men. This could be a great match, and you know what? There's no shame in Chad Gable losing. There really isn't any shame in Chad Gable losing against John Cena. That's just the way it is. Number 8, Kofi Kingston. So, this is a fun fact. They have never had a singles match together. And I say we break this fact. I say we let everyone see what kind of match they can have together. So, I'm all for Kofi Kingston and John Cena going at it. Number 9, AJ Styles. Their styles clashed, and this made them perfect dance partners once upon a time. Cena and Styles one more time would definitely deliver and light up the wrestling world. I know that their first rivalry really got people talking, and I say just build on that and bring back, get the wrestling world talking once again. Now, in looking at my list, I realized I skipped over a name, and that's number 5, Carlito. Carlito debuted and beat Cena on his first night for his first United States title reign. They've had a few matches since then, and Carlito may retire soon as well, so I think he and Cena should absolutely throw down one more time. They have good chemistry, and it would make for a fun Raw or SmackDown match, depending on what brand Carlito is on. So, I'm all for that. So that's 9 picks that I would like to see. I know a lot of them are rematches, but oh well. These are the matches I'm personally interested in. I know a lot of people want to see Cena Gunther, and that'd make for a good match too. A lot of people want to see Cena Randy Orton. I don't want to see Cena and Randy Orton. They have never had really any good chemistry together. I mean, they had their SummerSlam match in 2007. That was the memorable one. That was their first bout, but besides that, I've never really cared much for their matches. I don't want to see it. I know a lot of people want to see John Cena chase the Intercontinental title. And I mean, hey, maybe that'll make for a good story. I don't think it needs to be done. I just don't see what Cena gains from it, especially if he's retiring this year. But yeah, let's get into his career. Talk about this retrospective. So, his career is one that is rather polarizing. On one end, it doesn't need to be said that he's held down WWE for over a decade. He's their golden goose, their tried and true, and in a lot of ways, their meal ticket. That's not to say John Cena didn't need WWE, but WWE certainly needed John Cena as well. Cena's had some amazing rivalries as well as memorable runs, and as WWE and United States champion and near the tail end of his career, put over a lot of talent. He's done a remarkable job giving back to the business. On the other hand, he'd been booked to the fatigue of the audience. This also doesn't need to be said, but it's true, and I just would be remiss in not acknowledging that. Let's not forget there were millions of segments and storylines that he took part of that weren't good. One might remember the Nexus angle. It started out interesting but slowly decayed over time. While I don't fully put that on the feet of Cena, he did pull for the Nexus to lose to him at SummerSlam, according to Edge and Jericho. Now, Cena has said that he's never pitched or pulled for anything in his career, which would, include this example. So it really just depends on who you believe. But somebody's clearly lying in that regard. So it depends on, again, who you believe. I feel like a lot more now, Cena has turned the audience in his favor in 2015. A lot of people, and so much so that a lot of people are willing to let go and even forget about some of his, if not all of his, negative contributions to wrestling. Some people have allowed them to misremember some rivalries, such as the first feud with The Rock. I mean, my God, are people misremembering that? Someone even said that Cena, and I put air quotes in this, controlled The Rock. Let's put this to bed. The Rock was not controlled by John Cena. If anything, The Rock brought out the best in him. If you go back to look at John Cena in 2009, 2010, and 2012, he had some of the worst promos ever. He would do bad comedy, bad segments, and his matches on television were the biggest offenders. This is where the common belief was that he couldn't wrestle came from. And that was a misconception on a lot of people. It's just he was very limited in what he would do, and he would, in a lot of cases, and I hate to say this, it felt like he would phone in some of his matches. Because a lot of those matches during that time period was spent with him taking 90% of the damage and then hulking up and then winning. And doing 5 moves of doom, as what people would call it. So, that's one of those things that people need to remember. And I remember those matches. It was the same story over and over. Now, when The Rock came in and the storyline was going on, Cena did pull his weight, but he also did fight an uphill battle, getting booed out of the building several times. The This Is Your Life segment with Mick Foley. And The Rock didn't even have to give 100% for the most part. Not saying he didn't, but I just feel like The Rock, he could have truly ripped Cena a new one if he really wanted to. He could have gotten even more brutal if he really wanted to. But yeah, John Cena had a tall task and The Rock was more than in his element. I want to take a moment to talk about the segment that everyone brings up, including Cena. The Rock had notes on his wrist. Cena comes out, calls him out, and then he leaves, and The Rock was left stuttering, and Cena had a big grin, and he leaves the building. You know that Rihanna song, Work, Work, Work? That's exactly what this was, and people fell for it. Think about it. The Rock, who's an actor and a master of the mic, needs notes. He can't improvise. And when Cena calls him out, leaves back to gorilla position, he's left speechless with nothing other than a stammering promo? I mean, I think it's very obvious this was done to give a leg up on John Cena. And you know what? I'll give them credit. It worked, right? Some people fell for it and some turned on The Rock as a result. And I'm not trying to hate on Cena either, but it needed to be said. With that said, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that The Rock, his promos with The Rock were some of his best. Like I said, The Rock brought out the best in Cena. We got to see a side of Cena that we hadn't seen for a long time for that time period. He also had a great match with The Rock at WrestleMania 28. A not so great match with The Rock at WrestleMania 29. The less said about that feud, the better. But John has also had a great rivalry with the likes of Edge, The Miz, AJ Styles, CM Punk. And CM Punk, I think, is his best rival. Hands down. Now, I don't know what his best match is, because there's a lot of them. From an in-ring standpoint, he had his best chemistry with guys like RVD, Shawn Michaels, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and AJ Styles. But this is just a short list. An underrated name is Dean Ambrose. They faced off back in 2015 for the U.S. title. And then again back in 2016. That was where their rivalry, their short-lived rivalry happened. But they had good chemistry between the two. And I still remember both of their individual promos on each other on Talking Smack. If only they had a longer feud, I can guarantee the rivalry would be more remembered and discussed. Moving on, I'm sure John Cena will probably headline next year's Hall of Fame, if not the 2026 Hall of Fame. And I was thinking possible names to induct him, and a couple have come to mind, but the first name that pops out is Edge. Now, if AEW gives Edge the permission to induct John Cena, I think he would make for a perfect name. Next to Randy Orton, CM Punk, or The Undertaker. Now, if Vince McMahon wasn't bogged down in the allegations, I'm almost certain he would probably be the name to induct John Cena. In the same way he inducted The Undertaker. Now, the rest of these names are fine choices and they need no explanations, but just to go over some other names, let's get into them. Kurt Angle. The man was inducted by John, funny enough. He was John's first match in WWE, and they've had some memorable matches and a memorable rivalry, and I remember their Unforgiven 2005 match. Another name, or two other names that people may not realize, are Chris Jericho and The Big Show. Jericho is one of John's long-standing rivals. They've had some great matches together, and their chemistry is fun. Big Show gave John Cena his first WrestleMania match and title win. They've had several moments together, like their rap battle. And, maybe they haven't had the most memorable matches together. But Big Show has put a lot of equity in John Cena. And I think he's a deserving name as well. Ultimately, the choice should be up to John. Whoever he deserves, whoever he deems fit to induct him, it's his choice, and I think that should be respected. Now, WWE could choose from a lot of names, and they can't go wrong either way. Overall, Cena's resume speaks for itself, and to end this video, I would like to say thank you, John Cena.